They didn't lose you when you walked away. They lost you the moment you stopped explaining yourself. And if you feel that weight right now, if someone keeps living in your mind but distance keeps growing between you, then breathe slowly, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see everything. Your silence is not weakness. It is not cruelty. It is the most honest thing you have ever given them. When you finally go quiet, you stop protecting them from the truth they were avoiding. You stop filling the spaces they created. You stop translating your own worth into language they refuse to understand. And something shifts, not just in you, inside them. Your absence becomes louder than any word you could have said. Your peace becomes heavier than any anger you could have shown. This is not about revenge. This is about what happens when you stop performing for someone who was never truly watching. Here are 5 silent behaviors that make people regret hurting you, even when you never say a word. Not tactics, not games, just the natural consequence of your growth meeting their choices. You do not do these things to punish. You do them because you finally understand something powerful. Some people will only feel the weight of losing you when you stop carrying that weight for them. You stop explaining, they start remembering. You stop chasing, they start wondering. You stop reacting, they start regretting. Not because you became cold, because you became clear. Not because you stopped caring, because you started caring about yourself. Let's walk through each one, because this is not just about what you do. This is about what breaks open inside them when you finally stop doing what they expected. And if you are ready to understand this deeply, stay with me until the end. The first behavior is simple, but cuts deep. You see everything, but you respond to nothing. You notice the patterns, the contradictions, the distance they keep creating. But you don't call it out. You don't demand answers. You don't try to fix what they are breaking. And that silence removes something they were counting on. Their script. People who hurt you expect a reaction. They expect you to chase, to question, to break down. They expect the emotional show that makes their behavior feel justified. But when you stay calm, when you observe without feeding into chaos, they lose their footing. Your silence becomes a mirror. And mirrors do not lie. They start seeing their own actions reflected back without your explanations softening the edges. They feel the discomfort of their choices without your reactions pulling focus away from it. You are not being cold. You are being conscious. You are not ignoring them. You are finally honoring yourself. The second behavior hits differently. You stop explaining your feelings to someone who watched you break. You stop trying to translate your pain into words they will accept. You stop making yourself smaller so they can pretend they didn't see. Because here is what nobody tells you. They already know. They know what they did. They know how it hurt you. They know the difference between confusion and choice. But as long as you keep explaining, they can pretend they don't. As long as you keep breaking yourself into digestible pieces, they never sit with the full weight of what they destroyed. So when you stop, when you pull back without a final speech, without one last attempt to make them understand, something cracks. The silence you leave is not empty. It is full of every truth you stopped defending. And now they have to face it alone. If this is hitting your heart right now, if you are recognizing yourself in these words, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Mindful Ways, because we are about to go even deeper. The third behavior is when you stop participating. You don't argue. You don't defend. You don't try to prove anything. You just step back. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with a quiet knowing that says, I am done here. And this confuses them more than anything you could ever say. Because people who create drama need you to play along. They need you to react, to defend, to stay in the cycle that distracts them from their own emptiness. But when you refuse, when you choose peace over their chaos, the whole game collapses. They can't fight someone who won't show up. They can't manipulate someone who stopped needing their approval. They can't control someone who realized that not every battle deserves your energy. Picture this. You used to explain, defend, cry, beg for understanding. Now, silence, calm, distance. They throw the bait. You don't bite. And in that moment, regret starts creeping in. Not because you hurt them back, but because you stopped letting them hurt you. The fourth behavior is one of the hardest but most powerful things you will ever do. You create distance without announcing it. You don't make it dramatic. You don't send a final message. You simply stop being available the way you used to be. You stop filling their silence with your presence. You stop showing up emotionally for someone who kept leaving mentally. And distance does what words never could. It makes them feel what they lost while they still had it. When you were always there, always trying, always waiting, they took you for granted. Your presence was background noise. But when you step back, when the space grows naturally and you don't force closure or demand answers, they notice. They notice the things you used to do, the texts you used to send, the way you used to care about being understood. And regret walks in quietly, not because you punished them, but because you stopped saving them from the consequence of losing you. The fifth behavior changes everything. You don't just go silent. You evolve past who they thought you were. You stop being the person who waits, who hopes, who bends, who explains. You become someone else, someone they cannot predict, someone they cannot reach with old patterns. This is not pretending. This is real transformation. When you stop defining yourself by their absence, when you stop checking if they noticed, when you stop waiting for apologies that may never come, you become unreachable. Not because you are hiding, because you are healing. And that makes them regret everything. Not your pain, not your anger, your peace. The version of you that doesn't need them anymore. The version that chose yourself when they could not. They will reach out eventually. Not because they changed, because you did, and by then, you will be someone they can no longer touch. People don't regret losing you because you made noise. They regret losing you when you become quiet, whole, and unreachable. Your silence is not punishment. It is protection. For your energy, your peace, your future. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are not listening, you give yourself permission to be heard by people who are. When you stop chasing clarity from those who chose confusion, you create space for connections that don't require translation. This is your reminder. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world just because they once had a key. Some doors close quietly. Some chapters end without closure. Some people only understand what they had when your silence makes it impossible to ignore what they lost. Stay silent. Stay strong. Stay unreachable to those who took you for granted. If one of these 5 behaviors resonated with your soul, drop a number in the comments. 1 through 5. Let me know which one you needed to hear most. And subscribe to Mindful Ways, where your silence becomes your strength and your healing becomes your greatest power. Turn on notifications, because the next video will show you exactly what to do when they finally come back. And trust me, you need to be ready.